Hello, Warhammer fans. It's the Andy and Remington Steel Show on a Tuesday night. It's the Andy and Remington Steel Show with tremendous delight. Talking about Age of Sigmar and looking through its rules. Looking at Remington's amazing models, his painting skills are so rude. It's the Andy and Remington Steel Show. He's a bloke who never smiles. He likes to wear bright orange clothes. You can see him for miles. Featuring Mc1gamer from New Jersey.
Quite the wonderful musical intro as usual, Mr. Rem. That's right, folks, it's time for the Andy and Rem Show, your weekly one-stop shop for all things Age of Sigmar and fantasy wargaming in general. And with us this week, as you can see, we have the legendary YouTube figure himself, Mr. Mc1gamer.
Hi guys, I just want to make a quick announcement. I have retired from the music scene. I'm sorry, but all my fans out there, the soothing sounds of Mc1gamer will no longer be heard.
There is something to be said for that, though, going out on top. Not hanging around the scene too long, overstaying your welcome. Like
always leave them wanting more.
Do. Yeah. So, the audience were in there bright and early this week because, just to test people, I put up the video 3 days early to see if people were willing to comment that early. And Plastic Sturgeon was the first one in, so platinum membership for him, so we can view the show through binoculars or a telescope in full HD. YouTube Newbie actually said, for the second comment, we're allowed to tape 2 telescopes together and use them to view the show in 4K. So I'm going to say that that is the new standard for Platinum membership now, so good idea, Newbie. Let's see who else has commented. Hooves of Doom, Oliver Charles, Darth Plagueis 101, Game Guardist, Curtis Tando, some new names, Dieter, Benjamin Powell, Lady Phoenix, Rosen Goldbergstein. We've got
great names. That's a great name.
Great name. We've got Bloom, Dreddy Gaming, as usual, drinking coffee in the comments. We've got Drunken Underscore Elf, the most prestigious underscore in the world there, certainly. We've got Auduix Pezapoo, who recently bought himself an Archaean, which I spotted on Facebook earlier. So I'll be looking forward to seeing what he does with that. We've got Eason T, Fernando Lima, Master Dwalin, and then some chump named Remington Steele has just popped into the comments as well. Not sure what he's doing there. Graham Rigg just hopped in as well. So, folks, we've got a plethora, a barrage of topics for you this evening. And Mr. Rem, in our main topic, which we're going to get to later, is going to be getting some tactical aid. Because, as you may have noticed in recent battle reports, that's one area where he may feel he is somewhat lacking. Is that a fair assessment?
That's a fair assessment. Basically, guys, I need your help to defeat the guy you're looking at in orange with the green background. You know, this guy plays his nasty little dirty dwarves at the back of the board and shoots me down, right? And if he's not doing that, he's got a big block of zombies with an annoying necromancer that runs at the first sign of danger. We've got to help Remington, you know, defeat this guy, you know, and we've got the inventor of the tremendous meter live on the show to do that. That's right, Mc1gamer.
Yeah, any man who can innovate his own comp. He's a tactical maestro.
It's too bad. It's too bad. Mr. Tremendous is already taken by another big YouTuber. Otherwise, I would have garnished that, I guess.
Well, Tremendous Damage is probably still available.
Yeah. Well, I'm already branded, I guess. Not in a great way, but. Oh, by the way, whoever logged in 3 days ago when you made that first announcement, I'd like to know if anybody stayed online that whole time, waiting in the room.
I certainly hope so. Also, people that liked the video before it went live receive a gold membership, which means that you're allowed to watch the show without blinking, so you get the full experience. So, before we get to the Rem Tactical Aid, we're going to head on over and look at some of the new releases and some of the leaked imagery that appeared this week.
Are these pictures from your honeymoon trip to Warhammer World? I just want to tell you, by the way, guys, congratulations. I'm very happy for you both.
It was a fantastic experience, wasn't it?
Well, you didn't pay for it, so...
Yeah, exactly. So, first things first, the Varanguard are official now. Here they are, in all their giant glory.
Yes, more chaos! That's what we need, more chaos!
Yeah, we never had 360 of these before, though, so look, you can see, like, horse butts and everything on this 360 view. And I don't know if it's just the way they painted it, but it looks like there's something going on down there as well, which I'm not going to focus on for too long.
Wow. Do you think that chaos horse get to wipe their butts? Come on.
I doubt it. They probably have someone to do it for them.
So, is it... Wow, well, that's an amazing model. Are we talking £60 for 3 models, or...?
Yes, we are.
£20 each.
So when I said they would be over £10 each, I was right.
Yeah, and...
But we didn't really know the size of them at that point, and they are huge.
I mean, that is the only negative about these models, is the price. I mean, these are unbelievably powerful models. Like, tremendously speaking, Mitch, what would you give them?
They break the meter in a lot of ways. I mean, you don't really need more than the 1 pack of 3. If you want to go crazy, you certainly can, but they are brutal. I mean, you take a look at the War Scrolls; they speak for themselves. I think 3 is it's pricey, but what isn't? But you're not going to be rocking 6 or 9 of these. You need 3 is a solid unit.
The only thing we didn't emphasize in the rules last week from the German translation was the fact that they can only double their attacks once per game. So surely that makes them just a terrible choice now. Wow. They can't possibly be competitive, only being able to double their attacks once.
They lose 1 rank on the tremendous meter. Okay.
Okay, they're down to like 16, I think. And of course, there are some bundle deals involving them. So you could pick up the Swords of Chaos, Archaean, and what looks like, is that 3 packs of these? Yes, it is. For £280. That is an army. Would you ever be able to field all that?
Sure.
What could you possibly come up against that could match that?
Oh, there's plenty of batshit crazy stuff to put on the table against it, but that's pretty imposing. Archaean by himself, but how many of those? Is that 9?
9.
9. Oh,
there's no discount on those price-wise.
I want to face somebody who has 9 of those. All right, with Nagash and 12 of the Blood Knights, and see how that stacks up.
That would be interesting.
You got no chance, Mitch. You got no chance. I mean, Archaeon, if they've got Archaeon, he basically steals your wizard's powers.
Yeah.
Yeah, there is that.
There has to be something that makes Nagash.
What about just lining up 5 Glotkin against this lot?
Ooh, yeah. Is there a bundle deal for 5 Glotkin?
Well, I would certainly hope there is to counter this.
How many wounds have they got again?
Those knights, they have 5 each.
5 each. Well, I was looking at the rules for a Firebelly because I saw the wonderful Amy Snuggs post some pictures of ogres and their amazing paint jobs. If you look on the Facebook sites and so on, but I've got one unpainted there, so thinking about painting that, and that alone can do D3 damage with its flame attacks, and then another D3 damage with this kind of weird wall of fire thing it's got. So if it's lucky, maybe it can take one out before it gets in the combat. Trying to look on the upside here.
In the comments, Lady Phoenix says they're cheap at £20 each.
Uh-huh.
And really, when you see the size of them, it's not out of line with the other models available.
Yeah, I'm talking about out of line, guys. I mean, I've been looking at the 9th Age stuff, and we're going to talk about a little bit about that. But we're seeing a new run of models here, and of course, we're seeing ARS progressing with new models and new battle scrolls coming out. And already the 9th Age is starting to look old, I'm afraid.
Well, the one thing you have to say in the 9th Age's favour is that instead of having all these beautiful pictures of models that have been wonderfully created and then put down on the table with fantastic paint jobs, they've managed to get some of the legendary YouTube figures back, who, of course, are equally attractive.
Yeah.
You'll agree.
Yeah.
Well, there's a positive to 9th Age and somewhat of a negative, but it's just a matter of preference. The people who are going to gravitate to that are looking for that with the collections they currently have. They may like or want something like this, and certainly this is a community-driven rule set. They can add more rules if they want. There's nothing that stops them from doing that.
And tonight we're actually going to be discussing 10th Age.
Yeah.
I'm not going to spoil too much about that right now because we've got some other things to look at first. So, how about this?
Wow.
Yeah,
A
baby.
sprue that popped up. Now, some people are questioning the legitimacy because it says 2016 on it, and as we know, GW tend to put the year that the sprue was actually created. So, for example, when the last batch of dwarves came out, the sprues all had a couple of years previous as the date on them. So that's thrown some people off. But it looks legit enough.
What makes you think it's a dwarf?
It's got, if you see the head there upside down,
Oh yeah.
then you can see like the beard, tassels, and everything coming down, and there's his face.
Got a really small head and a
Huge
He's got a lot of
flaming
hair.
hairstyles, and look at all the flames coming off every part of them.
It looks pretty cool. So I've heard two rumours about these flame dwarves. I don't know, fiery dwarves. What do you call them?
Fire Slayers, maybe?
Fire slayers. Are these like chaos dwarves or are these like good dwarves?
As far as I'm aware, these are going to be good dwarves. These are like the reimagined Slayers, I think.
But take a look at the sprue, though. What does the lower torso look like?
It does look like cavalry, yeah.
It's definitely a rider for a mount. We haven't seen the mount, but it certainly falls in line with what we've seen with pictures and the fluff in the in the books. So I think it's legit. I don't know. Maybe they're moving in a different direction with new molds, and that's why the date is different. But you know, the conspiracy theorists are going to say all kinds of things, and if they don't want to believe, they don't have to believe. I choose to believe. I don't know if this is a Chaos Dwarf sprue or if they're going to break out the factions into the old Dwarf faction and maybe a Chaos Dwarf enhanced units for Chaos Dwarves, since we know it's supported now, it's legitimized. But either way, it's nice to see something new and added to an army, and it just substantiates the fact that these armies are going to continue to be supported.
And if it's for good dwarves, flaming slayers riding on some kind of monstrous mount would definitely be one way to get me to spend more money on my dwarf army.
Maybe
I'm
they
saying
just
that now.
like riding a cannonball or something.
I'm not sure about that one. Slayers that catapult themselves into battle. So they're like Doom Divers, except they actually survive the fall and then start hacking things up when they come down.
That'd be pretty awesome.
I don't think there's going to be a mount. I think they're riding some kind of element. Maybe they're riding fires or fire.
I'm not sure I'd be happy sitting on flames.
No.
Well, if you're flaming already, who cares?
Well, if your head's already on fire, maybe you've got some kind of immunity to it.
Do they have like this spray on stuff to make their beards fireproof?
I would hope so. Well, I hope they're protecting more than just their beards if they're sitting on flames as well. They better have some kind of ointment for those tender regions.
They look awesome. Do you think they're going to be individual models, or do you think they'll come as a unit?
Things generally are coming in units now, aren't they? If they're going to be kind of monstrous cavalry-sized, maybe they're going to come in threes. That would make sense to me.
Looks like you got some weapon options there as well.
Lady Phoenix thinks maybe the Bull Centaur riders, and Plastic Sturgeon thinks maybe Slayers on Savage Bears.
Cool.
So it's not going to be long on these guys, though, is it? If the sprue's already been leaked out there, you would imagine it's only a month or two away.
When you read about the old world and the dwarves where they live, it doesn't really talk about any kind of wild animals that live down there, apart from Skaven and goblins. You don't really hear about bears, do you? But there are models out there, dwarves riding bears already.
Yeah.
The old world's dead.
Right.
I think salamanders. I think they're going to take some of the salamanders from the lizardmen. They've corralled them, trained them. Now they're riding them into battle, and hopefully they can shoot.
Yeah, flaming slayers on fire-breathing lizards does sound quite terrifying, doesn't it?
I think beavers would be good. It's always good riding beaver.
Yeah.
Damn.
Yeah, there we go. It's that kind of show.
Right, let's have a look at this guy now.
9-page chat, let me tell you guys.
What do you think about this bad boy?
Wow. Blue.
He's Tzeentchian. He's riding on a disc that seems to have a lot more spikes on it than your average disc, and he's reading a book.
Well, have you guys got any Tzeentch stuff in your collections?
I stay away from chaos.
I used to have a few things back in the day, but not anymore.
Right.
But is there much else out there for Tzeentch at the moment?
Flamers?
I mean, because if you think about Khorne, they've got all these billions of different like mortal warriors with all the blood and the skulls in their names. But Tzeentch don't seem to have that many, do they?
Well, they've got Village the Curseling, who's the Tzeentch warrior sorcerer kind of character who's really interesting, and you've got a couple of these kind of guys, and you've got the guys on what they're called, the scroll guys. There's two of them riding on a disc. I can't remember what you call them. Remember that character model you could get? I don't know. They've covered in scrolls their disc. That, and then you got the flamers, and then you got the horrors. You got the Tzeentch. You got the blue and pink horrors. That's kind of it, I think.
We could see more coming though, because they do seem to be pretty obsessed with chaos releases in the last few months, don't they?
Yeah. Oh yeah. You've got those flappy things, haven't you? That look like X-rays.
Yeah. Don't forget the flappy rider flappy things.
I like Archaon versus Nagash. It actually says it in there. There's a bat rep. I like it.
Ooh.
Yeah, and Clash of Titans.
So Nagash served up on the silver platter for Archaon to...
Oh, I doubt he's served up, but he's probably going to get... Look, this is the new release. He's probably going to lose because they're not going to launch a new release of a massive model like that and have him get beaten by a legacy model. No way.
Oh, that's it. They're called the Blue Scribes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I should have known that.
So that's quite a tasty scene we've got there.
It's a good-looking model, let me tell you.
Oh, well, of course. You've always got the Changeling. That's a character model, right?
Shall we look at how tremendous it is now then? Because bum bum bum. Okay, so let's start with his base stats, which for a wizard you would imagine aren't going to be that important. But move of 16 inches.
That's tremendous.
That is tremendous in itself. Maybe not tremendous damage, but it's still tremendous. Bravery 8, wounds 5, pretty standard, 6+ save. Nothing really exciting under there. As far as his attacks go, I would imagine it's not going to be too tremendous because he is a wizard. His staff, just 1 attack. It does D3 damage though, 18-inch range, so it's better than nothing. He's got a couple of melee weapons. The disc can actually attack, D3 attacks. So not too much to shout about in the actual attacks. But of course it can fly. And flying 16 inches is not to be sniffed at all. Now, his abilities, though, are where it's going to get really tasty. So, add 2 to all the summoner's save rolls in the combat phase, unless the attacker is a monster or can fly. Which is quite nice. So you basically got him just darting around all these smaller people that are jumping up trying to reach him. So that represents that quite nicely. If a Gaunt Summoner is within 9 inches of a Realm Gate at the start of a movement phase, it can summon a unit of Chaos Demons to the battlefield.
Oh dear.
Well, that's going to be quite tremendous, isn't it?
Well,
it just says Chaos Demons, it doesn't specify any particular kind.
You wouldn't put a Realm Gate down there, would you, on the battlefield then, if you knew you were going to fight these guys?
It might be a scenario, though, and a scenario will if it has the Realm Gate, there it is. Plus, you can deploy a Realm Gate as a terrain scroll with this.
His Warp Tongue Blade, if that inflicts damage on an enemy unit, roll 2 dice. If the roll is higher than the enemy unit's bravery, 1 model in the unit is slain. Well, that could be interesting if you're using it on something that has a lot of wounds. Could be nice.
1 model slain or 1 wound?
1 model is slain.
Wow. That's good against trolls then, isn't it?
Yeah, anything multi-wound.
Can you read that the passage with the book of secrets?
I
can't quite make it out. I did look through it. I just wanted to.
Yeah, I think we already did that one. That's the one with the realm gates.
Yeah, yeah. How is that worded?
Let's see. As far as the summoning goes, place the unit so that all models are within 6 inches of the realm gate and more than 9 inches away from the enemy, and then that is considered their move. So that's how the summoning with the realm gate works.
Definitely open for abuse.
All he has to do is be within 9 inches of a realm gate at the start of his movement phase.
What's noted is that it's not that's not a spell that can be dispelled. That's an ability.
Yes, that is not a spell.
Yeah, that's high up on the tremendous scale.
It could be, potentially. It depends what demons you've got in your collection, really, doesn't it? So, magic. He is a wizard, obviously. He can attempt to cast 2 different spells and unbind 2 spells. He knows Arcane Bolt, Mystic Shield, and Fractal Mindstorm, which is going to be explained on here. So, in addition to summoning demons through a realm gate, then he can cast 2 other spells. So the Fractal Mindstorm turns an opponent's mental strengths against themselves. Before attempting to cast a spell, choose an enemy unit within 9 inches of the caster. The spell has a casting value equal to the bravery of the unit you choose. If the spell is successfully cast, roll a number of dice equal to the unit's bravery. It suffers 1 mortal wound for each dice that rolls a 4 or more. So potentially quite tremendous there. But his name does give it away, really, Summoner being in there. All his abilities are okay, but being able to summon just a unit of Chaos Demons to the battlefield, that's where the tremendous lies, isn't it?
Can we get a bit more specific about Chaos Demons? Is that what kind of demons?
It just says Chaos Demons, so anything that has the Chaos Demons keyword.
Okay.
Yeah, you have a long list of things in the of the War Scrolls that would qualify. It's just a matter of whether you want to summon something really big or a unit of flamers or just something. You could summon a unit of knights if it says Chaos Demons. I don't remember if you could do that.
There's got to be some kind of backlash there. You know what I mean? Maybe the demons attack him if if you're unlucky or something.
That's going to get conked. First of all, in a friendly game, it's a friendly game, so you're pretty much on the same level playing field. But in a comp situation, they're gonna limit that or make that hard to accomplish in the same way as the Engine of the Gods can just summon an entire unit, or other things in Chaos can just summon entire units and with no limitations. Look, it's just part of the game. You gotta know what you're dealing with and try to prepare for it. The one limitation is it has to be near the realm gate, so at least you know generally where it's going to show up.
There's just no backlash with Chaos stuff, is there? And loads of other armies have a downside to stuff that they try. Oh, I've just got to take this business call.
Right. While he handles that business call,
sure.
Now in the comments, Lady Phoenix says, does he summon the demons on their normal summon roll? And I would say no, because it just says he summons them to the battlefield, basically.
It's an ability.
Chaos demons to the battlefield. It doesn't say anything about it being a spell or a roll. So it seems just automatic to me.
Yeah. So one of the things that I've done in my own games is, and again, this is social contract comp, is that anything that gets summoned, it gets summoned at the minimum quantity of that unit. So you can't abuse it. I mean, if I summon, if it doesn't have a parameter, you just default to the minimum. So if the minimum is 1 or more, you get 1. If it says 5 or more or 10 or more, you get that. Now, that's just something that you can choose to do on your own to kind of make this a little bit more reasonable. But come on, there's enough crazy, somewhat broken stuff in this game that you can't look at this in a kind of by itself. You could see this in every list and in every army group and every faction. There's something that's just out of this. It's like, what were you thinking? But when you have every army list having this kind of potential nutsiness, then it does somewhat balance itself out, I guess. Oh, did I use the word balance?
I think you did.
Baby, I'll just call you back. I'm just busy doing some work at the minute. All right, bye.
Is that your mom?
What did I miss?
We're just talking about the balance of this unit, and there doesn't seem to be an upper cap on units generally, does there? So you could just plop down a unit of 50 demons if you feel like it.
Nice.
Yeah, that's the.
If you've got that many models.
But don't be a jerk roll.
Yeah, I think it would be interesting, though, to have a tournament where literally anything goes. Just try and play in the cheesiest way possible and see who can extract the most fromage I think that would be quite fun, actually.
I don't understand. Why doesn't it say, 2d6 demons and, and they're all lesser demons? If he's going to bring a greater demon on, then there's got to be a backlash to that, surely. But, I don't mind lesser demons, but anything?
Yeah, because if you're GW, you want to sell more models. So the person who wants the I win, automatic button press wants to go, maybe he or she has the resources to do so. They're going to go out and buy the extra stuff because it doesn't say there's an upper limit. So if they want to do that, and you don't have a friendly handshake social contract that puts a little bit of a break on that, then sure, it's completely legal.
And let's talk about him actually trying to use his ability now. So on a battlefield, if you've got one realm gate, you have two generally, don't you?
Mm-hmm.
So the fact he can fly 16 inches and then also run as well, what are the chances that he's not going to be within 9 inches of one of those gates at the start of each of his movement phases? I would say it's quite slim, unless you really, really position your troops well to stop him getting near them. That's going to be incredibly difficult, because even if you start moving troops towards him, he could just pop out 40 bloodletters and engage that unit of yours, so he'll be safe then.
That's the tactic, though. Think about that. I would love to play that game. That would be great. If you, as a defender, have to try to storm the realm gates and put a cloud of, even crud units, which there aren't really in this game anymore because a lot of those crud, core units that were not really great in previous edition now have accelerators for when you have enough of them. But if you could put enough units, if you could summon your own units if you have summoning capability, or move fast-moving units to kind of block within 6 inches of that realm gate because you have a cloud of your own models, then you just basically eliminate this ability. That's what I think a lot of the people who whine or complain, or, not everybody's a whiner or complainer about these types of abilities, not everybody's crying about this stuff. Some people just are like, hey, that's a little bit broken, but let's take a step back and say, how do you counter these things? Sometimes you've got to look at what are the tactics. This is a game that the detractors say has no tactics, but let's take a look at this. This is a huge challenge, and I think that would be a fun game in and of itself. You would have to try and factor that in when you put, you build, you get together with your opponent and you decide how you're going to build out your armies. What's the scenario? This guy is a story in and of himself. Now, I'm not a Chaos player. And this would be an uphill battle. You have to really consider this model and what he can do and what the model, the resources that your opponent has to bring onto the table with this ability. It's a crazy ability, but what a great story, and what a great it creates a tale, a narrative right there, just putting this guy on the table.
And it's not that horribly difficult to cover realm gates because, of course, you can just teleport between them. So if you're near one of them, you can get units near both of them, which makes it very difficult for him to summon through them.
Well, guys, I've just had a quick look through the War Scrolls of Chaos, and among the things listed as Chaos Demons, we've got a Keeper of Secrets, we've got a Herald of Slaanesh on an Exalted Seeker Chariot, Scarbrand, and a whole plethora of things like Nurglings and,
Well, if it's a choice between Scarbrand and Nurglings, I think I know which one I'd be going for there.
Well, I know what you guys are saying, with the storyline. Maybe that can kind of be the last chance saloon. And if he gets to open the realm gate, it's kind of game over then.
I think it leaves it open for you to come up with your own narrative scenario. Because it just says he can summon whatever he wants. So if you say, well, these are the demons just waiting on the outskirts of the realm to come in, and he has to summon them, then that could be an interesting story you've got there. Obviously,
the thing I love, Andy and Mitch, about the narrative games is that they bring a sense of urgency to the battle. When I played with you at Warhammer World, Andy, there's a sense of urgency that I had to stop you destroying the keep. And then the last game we played, I had so many turns to assassinate your leader, basically, before you annihilated my whole army. So yeah, it's got to work with narrative, hasn't it?
That's what I think is missed in a lot of these tournaments and events where they try to impose comp. It's not a negative against comp. I'm not trying to trash comp, but the game out of the box. And I'm on forums. I'm on Facebook groups, and I try to tell people, try to play this game pure the way it's written, even if it seems like it's crazy. try to see if you can find enjoyment in that before you try to impose some layer of comp that limits things, because this may seem crazy and it may be asking, just begging for somebody to try and restrict it, but try to explore and see where this goes. Even if you're on the other side of the table from it, there's so many crazy things in this game. Sometimes they just create a story in and of themselves. Stop trying to reduce or limit these things. They're just going to get crazier. It's going to come to a point where every army can summon. Every army has one or two broken characters and units and crazy stuff. And when you have that, when everybody has access to that, it does level the playing field of crazy a little bit.
I think you've got to add an extra little narrative on it. You could say something like, whatever comes out that realm gate, if you can destroy it, then you win the game.
If Scarbrand comes out, that would be a nice I win. Yeah.
I mean, when you read the lore, you read the Realm Gate Wars books. That's what the Stormcaster tunnels are fighting against. They're fighting against demons that are summoning all kinds of shit out of these gates, and floods and tides of monsters and demons are coming out, and they've got to kind of destroy the gate. So maybe that could be a goal as well, to actually destroy the gate. And whatever comes through, but if you destroy the gate, you win.
All kinds of ideas are running around in my head now. Like, for example, anytime you damage a unit that's summoned through the gate, they have to take some kind of roll to see if it sucks them back in because the magic in this area is kind of weak or something. Mm-hmm. There's all kinds of things you could do, really. If you don't think it's fair. You could have
the summoner take damage depending on the power level. You make your own little chart of the power level of what you bring in. And everything he brings in, maybe he gets a mortal wound, or die 3 mortal wounds, or if it's a Scarbrand or a Greater Demon, die 6 mortal wounds. Because guess what? That's just one guy. What if somebody has 2 or 3 or 4 of these guys? Every time they get to the Realm Gate, they're just automatically summoning units. Somebody out there is going to do that. You know
that. So, after that topic, how about we discuss something that I think the community are really going to take to? They're going to accept it into their hearts and take this on as the new way of playing 8th edition. So you've heard of 9th Age, but I doubt you've heard of 10th Age. Now, I've been secretly working on this behind closed doors, keeping it all very quiet because I don't want them stealing any of my ideas. Whether I've stolen any of their ideas or not is another matter. But I'm going to, in the next minute or so, I'm going to run through all the rules, all the changes to 8th edition that encompass 10th Age. And tell me what you think of them. Okay, here we go. War machines that do D6 wounds now do D3 plus 1. Disruption no longer removes rank bonus, but it does remove steadfast. Magic resistance gives a ward save versus all spells, even those that don't allow saves. If you miscast when rolling 5 dice, you roll twice on the miscast table and the opponent picks 1. If you miscast while rolling 6 dice, then the wizard is removed from the game with no save at all. And bound spells miscast on a 666. There you go. That's 10th Age. There are a few army-specific ones, but just as a basis, what do you think of those?
Yeah, cool.
Because the way I see it, the issues with 8th edition were obviously steadfast, because taking big blocks of 3 billion Skaven slaves and then them never fleeing, it got a bit much, didn't it? For most of us. It's not that much fun. No. So moving it in a direction that would allow more medium-sized units, I think, is better.
Yeah. I mean, just on that, you've inspired me to create the 11th Age, Andy. 11th Age brackets Rise of the Halflings. Because, of course, everyone that knows Halflings knows that 11s is when they have their after breakfast but before lunchtime food. So look out for 11th Age, guys. Rise of the Halflings.
Nice.
So I think with the D6 wounds going down to D3 plus 1, that's something people have talked about for a long time. That would make the large monsters more of a viable choice now, because they're not just going to be taking 6 wounds from cannonballs on a regular basis. And the magic resistance, there are a lot of units out there that have magic resistance, but a lot of the time it didn't really matter, because most of the spells that were killing them were the giant ones that didn't allow any kind of save and just deleted the whole unit if they fail a certain test. So I think that would counter that nicely.
Yep.
And what do you think of my changes to the miscasting?
Anything that makes it scarier to roll large numbers of dice and get an undispellable effect. I think anything that gives you pause to throw more dice, I think, is a nice add to the game, to that version of the game.
Yeah, it would make it a Hail Mary spell, won't it? And you've got to be prepared to lose your own model.
If you get your wizard down to his final wound, but you've got this really nasty spell you need to get off in the last turn, and he thinks, right, I'm going to summon all my energy. It could kill me, but I'm going to do it anyway. And then he just gets killed. And I think bound spells having a possibility to miscast is something that's quite necessary as well. On a 666, though, to keep it fair. And I did put some army-specific rules in there as well. I've only done 2 armies so far. It's a work in progress, 10th age. It's open to community feedback, obviously. We're not elitist here. So, the Beastman rare choices. The ones that cost 275 points have dropped down to 175, apart from the Gorgon, which is 200, because that's the slightly better one, isn't it? And also, the Dwarf Anvil of Doom has come down from 170 points to 120 points as an upgrade, because it was horribly overpriced in the most recent book, and those are the only changes I've got so far. So, if anyone wants to make any suggestions for 10th Age, then you should probably comment after the video, because then we can go into it in more depth, week by week. And this is going to be an ongoing project that I think will stomp 9th Age into the ground. What do you think? Do you think it's got legs?
Well, it's something we could definitely try out at RemCon, the already legendary event that we're putting on. Well,
any special guests we should know about at RemCon?
Well, I might invite Andy.
Well, I think the first half of the day will be RemCon, and then the second half of the day will be Andy Palooza. Just to keep things fair. So people have to buy a ticket for both, obviously, and each one will be £50. Keeping in the spirit of other events that take place at Warhammer World.
But we'll be announcing that in the new year, for sure. And talking about the end of the year, I've been in contact with Vince Venturella, who is one of the admin guys on the Warhammer YouTubers page, and he verified that we're going to have the annual YouTubers Award coming up, which I'm hoping he's going to announce tomorrow. But you heard it here first. You know? Yeah,
some quality awards given out in the last one. I hope that we can. I'm glad to see that the 9th Age has brought back some of the real long-term legends, the people who really are legends of YouTube, the Warhammer community, back into the fold, because it would be nice to see some of those guys nominated too.
Yeah, do you think it's any surprise that they come back in just before the yearly awards?
Conspiracy. There we go. It's all connected.
If there are categories such as most shocking return, and I think there's been some kind of under-the-table dealings. Vince, we're on to you.
Yeah, there's so much money involved here. Yeah, I agree.
Well, apart from the obvious choice of the Andy and Rem show taking first prize in a lot of the categories,
I think it's going to be a pretty clean sweep.
There's got to be a huge prize for Mitch's Unlocking Age of Sigmar series, which has got to be the most popular Age of Sigmar, tactical series of videos up there on the YouTube. Surely you've got to get something.
Thank you, I appreciate that. I have been very lax in my more recent activity, just because of holiday and family. Went on vacation, so yeah, I will be picking that up again. But there's so many people that have jumped into the scene, actually taking the place of some of the people that we unfortunately lost, that have really done some really good jobs. So I really like to see some, not just you guys, of course, because I know we're massaging each other here with positive comments, but I want to see some of these younger people that have decided to jump into the ring get some recognition. I hope we see a lot more of that.
I actually think, Mr. MC1, that your comp system, the Tremendous Damage comp, will take comp of the year this year. So you can be proud of that. I'm sure you'll erect a little shelf behind you on that nice bare wall you've got there, so you can display it for all to see.
I'll put it next to my the Golden Rat Award that I got last year. Was it last year? Yeah, it was last year.
Well, Mitch, I'm painting up some snotlings in case you don't win anything. I'm going to send you them.
No, not snotlings. Don't send me anything I'm never going to play. If you want to send me something, and this goes out to everybody, you want to send me something I'm going to use.
There's nothing out there that can summon infinite snotlings yet, as far as I know.
Not 11th age? Can still happen.
Possibly, although Jay Young says that he prefers 12th age, so we have to keep up, apparently. That's already out there. As soon as we mention 10th and 11th, someone's already put out the 12th age.
It's all an arms race.
It is. He also says only £50 for RemCon and Andy Palooza. You'll get too many riffraff at those prices. Well, I did say it was £50 for each of the events, which have been separated now. One for the morning, one for the afternoon.
You don't get a discount because you're already there? At least you have to pay double for parking.
And also, I'm sure at those prices as well, then we can pay for you to go around the Warhammer World exhibition as well. Because we're generous souls like that. So that'll be included in your price. Okay, so I think it's time for Mr. Rem to get some tactical lessons.
Okay, right.
I had some pictures of all his orc units. We're going to go through those first. If we don't get time for his dark elves as well, we'll have to do those another time. See how long this takes.
We're going to do those another time. So I've got my orcs already. I'll just talk you through what I've got, and then Mitch is going to. Can you see this?
Yes.
We can.
Right. Then Mitch is going to be giving us his tremendous opinion.
I love this. This is great. That came out really nicely.
Wow. So look, it's Ashhag the Slaughterer. I've done a bit of work on his base, as you can see there, but this guy, tremendously disappointing in the last game, but I'm sure he has his uses. Is he in or out?
Well, if I'm going to talk about the armies, maybe we. And again, I apologize. I'm a guest on your show. I don't want to do the production, but maybe I can go over like the models in general with your army list after we see the models, and I could talk about it because there's a lot of synergy with a lot of these with these units and characters and heroes that make sense as opposed to going them one at a time. I do want to ask you one question though. They use caulk like on the bottom for the stone, right?
Yeah.
Does it have like still a spongy quality after you finished it? Because I'm looking to do that also with my dwarf army that I'm building.
Yeah, it's a little bit spongy. I went on eBay and I got sort of 3 slices that are sort of large rectangular base size, about the smaller than the palm of your hand.
How did you mount it on that?
Put a bit of glue on it though, can't you?
How do you mount it? I just sort of tear it off, literally tear it off so there's no straight edges. I stick it on, tear a smaller bit off, stick that on, base coat it black, and then I put some Fang on it, Fang Citadel Miniatures colour, and then I put some Fenrisian grey dry brush over the top, and then a bit of pallid witch flesh.
So, but when you mounted the model on it, is it recessed into the caulk?
Yeah, it's stuck all right. I might like dig a little hole into the caulk. It's really easy, honestly.
I usually pin things through the caulk when I'm sticking into it.
That's what I'm thinking, because the dwarves there's a lot of room to pin because there's a lot of model that's touching it. All right, so I'll be happy to go. Oh, there we go.
All right, so I've added to this unit now because I only took 5 into battle against Andy, and they were embarrassingly few. Now I've got 12, and I've got another pack unopened. These guys 2 wounds each. Can't forget that in AOS. These guys 2 wounds each now.
Yeah, there's nothing that inspires you to paint more than playing them in a game and then realising you haven't got enough of them.
Absolutely. I mean, I've never painted so fast as well. After playing a game, you kind of. So these are my Savage Orcs.
Nice.
And I'm starting to paint a new unit of these because 10 of these weren't enough. Not nearly.
What'd you use for the rocks on these? Is this also caulk?
Same thing, yeah.
Yeah, cool.
Bit chunkier.
Yeah. And then this is the new. Okay, so these are unpainted at the minute, but that's a Black Orc boss there at the front, and at the back that is an Orc boss with a war banner, which gives you some extra bonuses. So these are all optionals, Mitch. These are my next lot of Savage Orcs. These got bows, and you can opt to select these guys with an option called Loads of Arrows, where they can fire twice in a round. I think it's a 5-up hit and 4-up wound. So yeah, they're on their way, 10 of them, or I can put them in with the other Savage Orcs to make them a regiment of 20.
Oh, I highly recommend that. Either way.
I just liked a bit of shoot. I didn't have any shooting really in the army before, so if you think 10 guys shooting, they need 5 ups. That means a third of them are going to hit, so maybe 3 of them hit, and then 4 up. So you're only going to get like 1 or 2 wounds per round, on average, right? It's pretty bad. Now the Mangler.
Yeah.
This guy is phenomenal. Love him.
He held up he did some major, tremendous damage. He ripped through quite a few of those zombies in that battle report.
Oh yeah. Now they've got 4 extra attacks when you attach the goblins with the balls and chains on the end, which I haven't quite finished painting yet. And their attacks are pretty not that good. But he's the wide gaping maw of the Manglers is unbelievable. There you can see at the bottom there the cork before I painted it, what it looks like. Alright, you got them. And then this guy, the AOS rules haven't come out yet, so I'm going to use it as a rock lobber for now. Yeah. This, oh god, I really wanted this to be good. The Snotling Pump Wagon.
Yeah, you were very disappointed with how that performed, weren't you?
After you spend as long as I did painting it, you can't not bring it to the battle. You know, even if it's a bit of scenery. Zoom Diver, yeah, hit or miss, really.
Did you use the technical paint on the base to give it that like cracked look? The cracked stone?
The
Nice.
problem is it flakes off really easily, so it's a nice additional thing. I wouldn't just use this on the basis.
You probably gotta do a varnish over it to kind of seal it in.
Or you want another colour underneath, so if some does chip off, then it just looks like it's cracked over the earth rather than over the black base.
Yeah, that's a good idea. I mean, I think putting a few plants and rocks on top could work, but it's really dry. When it dries, it's really dry. It can crumble off so easily. Anyway, that's the Doom Diver, and we've got a nice little Goblin Shaman, who his spell is Sneaky Stabbing, which is, you know, it gives you some extra rend on Goblin models. Pretty useless, if you ask me, but there you go. I've got 12 of these guys. Squig Hoppers, which weren't too bad. I think they managed to kill a couple of Black Knights, but they ran away very easily. The bravery sucks.
Goblins.
So battle shock is the problem there. But the actual squigs are pretty good in combat. Got some boar boys.
Nice.
They pack a nice punch, but can they stay the distance? Not without support is my answer. That's those guys with the kamikaze banner.
Love it.
And we got my trolls. These guys were brilliant, and I really want to see what these guys are like against rank and file troops rather than against other monstrous infantry.
Yeah, they did really well.
The regenerate rule is pretty cool. I didn't manage to get it off in the battle, but the fact that you can, on a 2-up, regenerate D3 wounds on each model is pretty cool. That's them. This is an old school miniature. This is an old catapult, so I don't know. It's kind of really small. The reason I put it up is because on the left there you've got the Orc Bully, who's pretty good. Comes in at 4 wounds, and he makes it so your crew doesn't run away, and also your Doom Diver is more effective, giving D6 wounds instead of D3 wounds.
Kind of like an engineer, isn't he?
So yeah, but the thing is, if you're going to count the bully as 1 war scroll, and then your opposing player chooses that Tzeentch sorcerer as a war scroll, who does better out of that?
Well, the bully does allow for double shot. I mean, you know, that double shot could take out that Tzeentch, you know, summoner pretty quickly.
That could take out the 3 Scar brands that come on in the first 3 turns, certainly.
Well,
I don't know. These are just some orc boys. I've got 15 of them, and they're kind of, they're just a bit shite. But there you go. They're just normal orcs. These are the things. These rank and file models like this, they kind of, I think they're getting kind of phased out of the game.
No, the thing is, and this is again, I'm getting a little ahead of ourselves because we want to go through the pictures, but you need more. A lot of these units that seem like they're trash, they have these accelerators at 20+, and I've noticed that the standard in a lot of previous editions was 20 or units of 5 or multiples of 5. Yeah. And if you just have 20, you're not getting those bonuses. And if you have 20, as soon as they take 1 loss, you lose the bonus. Yeah. So 5 guys is not going to do it. You need You need like 30. You know, somebody's going to put in that summoner as a war scroll, but if you've got some of these units where you've got an accelerator at 20, you should have 30. You should have 30 so you can absorb some punishment, some casualties, and still get those benefits.
We did see that firsthand as well with my zombies and skeletons in our last game, because they were dishing out tremendous damage to that Mangler Squig until they dropped below the threshold, and then suddenly they were just awful. I mean, it was like they suddenly armed themselves with pillows as soon as they lost half the unit.
Of course, the disadvantage is, I mean, like I said, I've got 15 of these guys, and to paint another 15 would just be literally that worth paint dry.
Well, you want to be able to use them though. So.
Yeah, their footprint is quite big though, because they're quite big models really, so they take up a large area of the battlefield.
Maybe they can surround one of those realm gates and prevent summoning. Oh, let's also remember that if you cover ground with that summoning ability, and you cannot, and there's no real estate for them to put the unit down. It's just like the summoning spell from for other armies. You basically lose the ability that turn.
All right, that's cool.
You got to use those tactics too. These guys seem like they did pretty well too, didn't they?
I held them off, and then they kind of got whittled down a bit, and then they chomped up a grave. What are they called?
Corpse cart.
Corpse cart in one round, and then they kind of ran out of steam a little bit.
Well, they did get multi-charged at that point.
Yeah, but yeah, they were good, real good. You know, can't remember if they've got 2 wounds or 1, or whether it's 2 attacks and 1 wound. Can't remember. But yeah, they're pretty good. I'm going to put these on round bases as well at some point. So I've got about 15 of them as well, and about 5 or 6 handlers. So these guys are a bit of for those old school war gamers. You recognise these?
Classic.
Ruglud's Armoured Orcs, the original ones. I've got 10 more unpainted. But these guys have special rules in AOS, and if I think it's within 15 inches, they can shoot with their crossbows twice in one round.
Yeah, they're 12-inch range, and if they don't move and there's no enemies within 3 inches, they can shoot twice.
It's pretty cool. They need 5
That's
up
great.
though. 5 up.
And they're armored.
4 up saves, yeah. So that's kind of cool. But you know, they're a lot smaller than the modern day orcs, but they're a bit bigger than goblins. But the guy in the middle I think he's meant to be. He's like an honorary orc in this regiment, even though he's a goblin. So yeah, I've got some of those. Oh yeah, and then we go like a giant spider. The big boss I'm struggling to paint, but yeah, there's another option there.
You need a bigger spider.
Yeah.
Like an Ragnarok spider.
Yeah. Oh yeah, and we got some fanatics. Now these fanatics, right, interestingly enough, they can come out of any Night Goblin unit. So they can come out of some squig, a squig hopper unit, right? Because they're down as Night Goblins.
The way they work seems to be a little strange, the fanatics now. I'm not sure if we got it 100% correct.
Yeah, I think you need more than one.
That would definitely help.
Yeah.
They don't just pass through units anymore and do a certain number of hits.
No, I mean the thing is, once they come out of a unit, do they immediately attack? Or because if you don't choose to attack with them and you choose to attack on another combat, your opponent can just take these guys out before they even get to swing. That makes sense.
It's different, at least.
Yeah.
We'll have to look into that a bit more to make sure we were doing that.
Just aesthetically, I think the base works nice there with a bit of foliage on top of the Agrelian earth there. So there you go. There's some. Oh, that's an unpainted old school wolf chariot. You won't find this model too often. It's part of a box set called Machineries of Destruction, Goblin Battle Chariots, and you get 2 of them.
Nice.
So yeah, that's an old school. You see the dwarf's head on the front, spiked. It's always nice to see, isn't it?
Vince will like that.
Having that.
So I think that's it. That's it.
Well, all right. So let's. I don't know if you want to pull up the pictures as we go through them, but let's start with Azog and your war boss. You have a war boss with a great banner, and the war boss with the great banner has a nice ability. He's got a command ability that gives you +1 to close combat attacks within 12 inches, and he rerolls wounds of 1 within 16 inches. So this is good. Anything that enhances the killy ability of other units is essential. So, and especially because it has range, you want to put this guy. You can't protect him against shooting. So you want to put him obviously in the back areas behind your troops, having some kind of a layered defense to protect them from getting charged, or any fast movers to get around there. The shooting stuff at long range, it's just you want to saturate a lot of really interesting targets so that your opponent really has to make some choices. And he's a pretty good one because he's going to make some of your already tough units that can dish out a lot of damage that much stronger. So I think he's definitely a worthwhile unit to put on the battlefield.
Well, you wouldn't put him in the front line.
I would not put him in the front line. I wouldn't put any heroes in the front line. And again, let me first say that these are critiques just based on some basic tactics that I've learned. There are plenty of people out there who analyze this stuff to death that I'm sure might have different views. I don't think there's necessarily a wrong way to play the game, but what I've seen in my experiences is that if you send out even, and this is something that happened with the Zog too, if you send out even your big units without support and without some kind of layered defense, the Age of Sigmar is killy enough where even the trash units from 8th edition can really dish out, and they can kill your dragons, they can kill your major heroes. Again, I saw early on a unit of clan rats take out a bloodthirster. I have had this happen to me, not the exact scenario, but I've had the garbage units kill other units. I've had units of skeletons, because they're now so killy in large numbers, take out just units of knights, chaos knights, wade through them, ghouls, wading through big characters. You do not want to send these characters straight ahead, even a Zog. And what you did was in yours is you looked at it in the sense where 8th edition, where you have these 12 wound models, and you put them forward, and 12 wounds can get erased very quickly. There's a lot of things that do mortal wounds in the game. Every wizard has a spell, Arcane Bolt, that can do mortal wounds, and there's a lot of things out there that are monster hunters. So you really got to be careful with these big models with lots of wounds, because as much as they can do offensively, nothing is invulnerable in this game, and very few things have the old school ward save. A Zog has some great abilities. First, you don't want to rush your big, even the behemoth special characters. You don't want to rush them up. You don't want to rush up your dragons necessarily right off the bat. You want to try and pick and choose when you get them into combat. And one of the great abilities I saw that you used was you retreated him. And that didn't necessarily reduce his effectiveness, because he has command abilities and other things that he can do. But let's take a look at what some of his abilities are. He's got a command ability that within 18 inches range, you can provide +1 to hit, run, and charge rolls for 1 unit. That's crazy. That's great. That's phenomenal. That's tremendous. +1 to hit, to the run roll, and to charges. So you can have a unit that's outside the distance of your opponent, get in there much easier, and if it's your turn, which it likely will be, they'll get that +1 to hit. And let's also remember, and this is going to be something when I talk about the board boys later, all those, and chariots and stuff, all those abilities that you get will carry over to your opponent's turn 2 if it's on the charge. So don't forget those types of things, because they're not just on your turn. On your opponent's turn, you're considered charging until your turn comes around again.
That's nice. I mean, my major problem wasn't killing Andy's troops; it was killing all of them because they kept coming back.
Well, then you got to focus fire on the things you can whittle away, and then against undead or any units that can grow back from being whittled down, like zombies and skeletons, you've got to focus on the other stuff. You got to try to keep them at manageable levels, but focus on the things that can't come back. Kill those, and then pile on when And the other thing is you need more. Shooting stuff should be focusing entirely on that necromancer. Getting things in range that have any kind of ranged ability. If you took out that necromancer, there's nobody left that's going to be summoning or restoring those units.
I think that can come back without the necromancers.
Some of them can, just by having a banner, but not in huge numbers.
The skeletons can, yeah.
Mentioned the command abilities a second ago. Now, am I right in saying that all generals and armies have access to the Inspiring Presence ability?
Yes.
So, Mr. M, what killed your army more than anything else? It was Battle Shock, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So you might want to think about using that Inspiring Presence on a unit that you think is going to be required to take some Battle Shock tests, because that just evaporated 3 or 4 of your main units, didn't it? And if they were just immune to that for a turn, or even 2 turns, that would have helped you a lot, wouldn't it? Imagine those trolls not losing 2 or 3 more models from Battle Shock.
Yeah, those are multi-wound models.
Yeah. I think
That could be a big thing to consider. It's tempting to look at the command abilities and think, well, this one gives me +1 to hit, but if they're all dead, it's not going to make that much of a difference. So you might want to consider just using the generic command ability there.
Not in the first turn. In the first turn, I think Azog's command ability would have been more effective because it'll get you into the action quicker. But in successive turns, absolutely. The immunity to battle shock, especially if it's in a range within that general, if you have the luxury of everything within 24 inches or something like that, it's a lot. Especially when you consider an Orc and Goblin army where your bravery is not very good. So
it's their main weakness, really, isn't it?
It's one of their primary weaknesses,
Mm-hmm.
and especially when you consider the multi-wound models, that will be removed. It's backbreaking. Okay, so this guy here. First of all, I love the paint job. He's a mobile caster and he's a mobile dispeller. You do not need to put this guy in the front of your combat and rush him forward. You want to go and find when you want to put him into combat, and then get him in there. But in the interim, you want to position him around. He may be somebody that's going to gather a lot of attention. You can use him to focus your opponent's attention while other things get into position. But he can get into position to dispel, and that's key too. And he's got that life drain ability. 24 inches. You don't have to be very far. First of all, you're outside the 18-inch dispel range. So sit outside the 18-inch dispel range, but within your 24 inches, and go hero hunting. That life drain does mortal wounds. That's phenomenal.
Yeah, I mean, it didn't work so good against undead because they're all on leadership 10, and the life drain spell is against your bravery check. You see.
Yeah, it's a risk, but it's free. Doesn't cost you anything to do it.
Okay.
But on the other hand, you sit that guy on a piece of terrain. I noticed. I don't remember if you did this, but he's got what, a 4-up. You put him on a piece of terrain. He's got a 3-up. You throw a Mystic Shield on him. He's got a 2-up. These are the things you need to also be considering. Let's say you don't want to use the life drain because you're up against undead. Absolutely, very important against demons as well. So let's maximize your spellcasting ability. Make yourself tougher to take damage from some of these units that like for instance on a unit like the Black Knights on a charge. They're not going to get the extra strength. I mean, their biggest strength is when they charge, and then they don't do quite so well unless they've got enhancements in successive turns. So,
yeah, boy, did they do well when they charged. I think they took like 8-9 wounds off them.
Yeah, you really want to look at which of my units are going to be fighting until I get another turn, and which buffs do I want on them in that time period that are going to help them out the most.
I think we forgot about the +1 to save on terrain.
Yeah, and all you need to do is be on a portion of your model is hovering over or on the terrain. It's one of those things that legacy players, long-time players don't necessarily like or understand because it's a new way of figuring out how terrain works.
Oh, yeah.
Get a +1 to your save if all of your models in the unit are even just touching the terrain structure.
Right. In the last game, I don't think we had that many models actually fighting on the terrain, though, did we? So it didn't come up that much.
Nah. So talking about multi-wound creatures, got Black Orcs now with 2 wounds.
Yeah, and the Black Orcs. Well, you see, let me take a step back. First of all, anybody who is watching this, go watch this video of this battle. It's actually a fun battle, and there's tactics that are involved. There's definitely depth to how both you guys played that makes it enjoyable to watch. But and if anybody wants to go take a look at in my series of unlocking Age of Sigmar, I did one all on Orcs and Goblins. I did one on the Elves. I did one on almost all the armies. I've got a few I've got to make up. One thing that we talked about when I did this was that Orcs and Goblins are very compartmentalized, and some armies have individual factions where there's synergy between characters and units, and Orcs and Goblins are one of the most. You have a spread of different types of models that's very similar to what you would do in 8th edition and previous editions. But in Age of Sigmar, while it's good and there's definitely effectiveness in having different types of models from these factions, you need to have synergies that enhance the capabilities of these models within these factions within the army list because they support each other. So things like Night Goblins have characters that support other units in Night Goblins. The Savage Orcs, same thing, and the Black Orcs is another thing. You have an Orc. I'll get back to the Orc Shaman, but like the Orc Boys, you said you only had what, 15 of them?
Yeah.
You need 20, and if you get 20 or more, you get extra melee attacks, and that's great. That makes those guys more powerful. You're losing that ability if you only got 15 of them. So while they're reasonably tough and they can do good damage, they can do a lot more if you've got more of them, and you're not losing anything in Age of Sigmar by having 30, other than obviously the money to get them and the time to paint them. Let's see if we can move down. But before I get to the other factions, I kind of broke these out into factions.
Cool.
The 5 Boar Boys, and they look great. I love the paint job on these, by the way. They've got great hitting power, but you said it yourself, and this is what I wrote down. They need support. They must charge to get their benefits. You got to remember that you're still charging in your opponent's phase after your phase, until your phase comes around again, so you get those nice benefits. They hit like a truck. Can they stay in there? They do have multiple wounds. They've got good distance in terms of movement. The key with these guys is you have a larger distance that you can get these guys in. So don't just rush them forward and then expect that they're going to be able to stand in there like heavily armored troops. Send something in that's going to take the brunt of the attack, slow down your opponent, maybe hopefully not get wiped out, and have these guys swoop in afterwards, or a multi-attack with more than one charging unit. And these guys will really pay off because you have another unit that's going to blunt the movement and the charging ability of your opponent, and these guys will swoop in afterwards and just they'll wreck units. But they can't stick in there like heavily armored cav.
Yeah, there may not be blocks of troops anymore, but you still have the old hammer and anvil tactics to use.
It's just different rules and different ways to use them. Absolutely. All right, your Black Orcs. I love Black Orcs. These are really good shock troops, really good armored troops. You want to have your big boss within 6 inches. Obviously, it gives them +1 to their close combat to hit rolls. They've got good armor. They've got 2 wounds apiece. They got 2 attacks apiece, and they've got a -1 to rend. So they are going to be useful against anything. And you have 20 of them. They don't have an accelerator that you need to have 30 of them, but 20 is a really good number. So you want to have your Black Orc big boss within 6 inches. He is going to get, if he's close to the Black Orcs, I think he gets +1 to his to hit rolls, and the Black Orcs are going to get +1 to their to hit rolls if they're within range of 6 inches of the big boss. So you want to have them close together. But what I would do, the real damage you're going to do is not with the big boss. It's with the Black Orcs. You have 20 of them. They create a huge area on the battlefield. I would sit the Black Orc boss a little bit behind, stay within 6 inches. You're not going to get cover against shooting in this game. If you sit within units, it doesn't help you. Make it that only a shooting unit will easily take that guy out, and make your Black Orcs do your work. So that's what I would do with that.
Nice.
Your armored Rugluds, I love them. They're short range, but they're armored, so they're going to be able to get close into battle much easier than a lot of your other units. You could throw a Mystic Shield on them; they're going to survive longer. If they do get into combat, they have decent. They have what, a 4+ armor save, I think it is. Again, sit them in terrain. They're now at a 3+, and there's not a lot of them, but they're not going to really garnish a lot of attention. But you might be able to sneak these guys up behind your Black Orcs, or behind another armored unit or heavy infantry unit. If no enemies are within 3 inches, they get to shoot twice, and if they have to not move. So I would find a place to sit them somewhere within 12 inches of where the action is going to be in the combat. Sit them inside of terrain. Each one of them has to just be touching a terrain piece, and they're all going to get that +1 to defense. If you're really concerned about them, you can throw a Mystic Shield, but there are probably better things to put a Mystic Shield on. Now they're 3 up. Somebody's going to want to shoot these guys, but now you've got 2 shots apiece from 12 inches. They could do a lot of support to wherever the close combat action is happening, and people are not going to be paying a lot of attention to them, but they will definitely whittle down and help you in a lot of ways.
I think, yeah, no, that sounds great, man. I just forgot what I was going to say. I'm just blown away with your amazing advice.
All right, if you remember, jump in. I just want to make sure we get this all in within the time that we have, but just tell me to stop and let me know if you remember that. But I'm going to move on to the Savage Orcs.
All right.
You have 10 with a potential of 20. It sounds like you have like 10 and 10. 10 Savage Orcs with weapons and 10 with bows.
Yeah.
You can proxy to make them 20. The problem is that a lot of their bonuses and their accelerators are at 20 plus. I'd have 30 of these guys. I would, and I know that's like, hey, I got to buy 10 more. But they're real. These guys gel with those accelerators at the quantity numbers. So if you have 20 and you're not getting any benefits if you only use them in groups of 10. And if you're at 20, they take 1 wound, you lose it. So you need to have a buffer. So Savage, they need to have, you need a Savage Orc War Boss to get the +1 attacks for Savage units. And you need 20 plus to get Frenzy, which is an extra attack. They're decent fighting units. The shooty ability, if they have bows, is great. They can't move, but they'll get +1 to hit if there's no enemies nearby. So you're going to be able to do some damage, and that's what you want. You want them to be able to, if they're shooty, you want them to sit them somewhere where, maybe you put them in terrain again, where they can maximize terrain every chance you get.
Yeah.
Because these guys don't have good armor. They have their war paint, but it doesn't hurt to get an extra save plus to save in terrain. I'm not sure if it stacks with the war paint, but even so, you want to have 20 or 30 of these guys, and I say 30. But you want to get an Orc War Boss, a Savage Orc War Boss that's nearby, so that they can do they can get that extra bonus to attacks, and that will make them much more effective. Let's see. Let's talk about Night Goblins and because again, that's a faction. You look at Night Goblins. You look at they have benefits with some of their characters that benefits just the Night Goblins. So if you have an army that is all like Night Goblins, so like a Night Goblin army, you're going to maximize these benefits. If your army is all Savage Orcs, you're going to maximize these benefits. If your army is all Black Orcs, again, same thing, because the characters are going to just help those guys. But if you want to mix and match, you must have the heroes that are going to at least affect those units that give them those extra bonuses within range.
Yeah, I think the most effective spell when I was playing was probably Mystic Shield. That was the one that went off the most, and I got the most benefit out of, probably. And yeah, and plus, if you use the War Scroll, the Battle Scroll, where it's just Savage Orcs, I think it's the Skull Tribe or something it's called, then they get 5+ save.
Yeah.
They've got even more mystical tattoos.
Yeah, any save is going to be good unless you're coming up against nothing but things that dish out mortal wounds, which is very rare. So unless I get 5 flame cannons to line up against you, then you're always going to want to boost your saves with that Mystic Shield, aren't you?
Yeah, that's a very good point. And frankly, you should have enough targets that anything that does mortal damage, somebody's got to make decisions to utilize them, because it's a waste to shoot something with mortal wounds against a unit that doesn't have very good armor save, because you're probably going to kill them with something simple like arrow fire or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, talking of arrow fire, if you've got 20 of these Savage Orcs and you're shooting at a monster, and they can shoot, and these guys can shoot twice if they use the loads of arrows ability, that's 40 shots on a monster.
It's 18-inch range.
Yeah.
You can get within range in turn 1. You don't want 20. You want 30. Because they're gonna take damage. They don't have the ability to absorb damage. Yeah, you could put them in terrain. Yeah, you can throw a Mystic Shield on them. But you're not talking about a 2-up save here. And again, I forget if the tattoos stack with these bonuses. They may. I just off the top of my head, I don't remember. But whether they do or they don't, you're not getting to a 2-up or 1-up save. You're going to be taking wounds in large numbers from these guys, so you need that buffer so you could still... Their bread and butter is large quantity to be able to get multiple attacks at long range. So that's where they really stack. And this is also whether or not you want to use them as just Savage Orc boys, but I really like them as just a scary, long-distance, shooty unit. Park them someplace where they can get some bonuses from the terrain, but sit them behind your heavily armored guys or the things that are moving forward, and you'll punish your opponent. They'll be removing tons of models, even before you get into close combat.
If you had 5 more spearmen and 5 more with the bows, and then you could just proxy the 15 that you're not using and just have one big blob of 30 of them, I'd be quite happy with that. And I think without having to paint a huge number of orcs, you have quite an effective unit there.
And then you have options. You can
proxy I enjoy painting these guys. I like painting fleshy stuff, It's much more fun than painting armored stuff for me.
I like the tattoos, too. You got some tattoos on there.
Yeah, man. That's the kind of Pièce de la résistance.
So I think the most important thing I think that I took from your battle report was that Azog kind of got stuck in too early in combat. I would have held him back a little bit. And if you want to bolster some of your army to kind of maximize some of your capabilities, I think that you'll definitely perform better if you get some of those abilities. They're on the War Scroll. You have the option. If you can get some more models to make them more effective, I think that you'll be dishing out much more than you have been. You'll be more combat effective as a result.
And think about as you get deeper into the game, the enemy units are going to have lost some wounds or lost some troops, and they'll have dropped below certain thresholds, so they're less effective. So if you have someone who's fast, who can choose when he wants to engage them, you can come in when they're at their weakest, rather than when they're strong at the beginning of the game.
Oh yeah. All right. Is there anything more you'd like to go over, Mitch?
There's some more minor details, but some of the things are basic, like keep the bully next to the Doom Diver and the Rock Lobber. You get 2 attacks.
Yeah.
You might want to proxy for a Grimgore. He's nice when he's close to some of your orcs. They get +1 to close combat within 10 inches. That's these things stack. So now you get a +1 from the War Boss. Then you can get a +1 from Grimgore. You get a +2. They're gonna hit. They're gonna hit on like 2+. And it depends on what you want to do. If you want to grow this army, you want more targets to take the heat off of Azog. If you are up for getting like an Arachnarok or a Giant, you want something big that your opponent's going to say, "Ooh, I'm scared of that. I want to shoot at that thing." If they have 2 or 3 of those options, then it's gonna divide their attention, and then you can cover more ground on the battlefield. If you have only one centerpiece model, everything's going. That's a magnet for every bolt thrower, every catapult, every cannon, every mortal wound dishing out spell. I mean, you need some depth in the big, scary, base-sized monsters.
I think you would really enjoy painting an Arachnarok as well. Seems
Yeah.
like it'd be a lot of fun. All the different colours you could use on that.
Did some awesome paint jobs of that model.
Yeah, I've seen some great conversions too. So I don't know if we have time for the Dark Elves, but that's the overall of. And by the way, any of your war machines, I'd focus on that Necromancer, man. I would put everything on him, saturate targets on everything you can on the summoners. You want to focus fire. You don't want to spread out that stuff, even from the different points of the battlefield. Just bombard it till there's just a crater.
Yeah, but what about the pump wagon, dude?
Yeah, well, pump wagons, they. You get them in there and they do their work. How many do you have? You have one, or you have a bunch?
I've actually got this one, and I've got an unpainted 1980s pump wagon as well.
Because you can do units of these. It's just like with chariots. You can put. I forget if you could do. Whenever I look at something like chariots, or there's certain monsters now that you can take in units. I do them in 3s, minimum 3s.
Yeah.
Because you can afford to lose one if, God forbid, there's a battle shock situation. But even so, you cover more ground. You can absorb some losses. Again, more is always better, and that's Age of Sigmar doesn't have any real upper limits unless you're doing comp. But you throw one on the battlefield, that is a deployment choice. But everything that you put on the battlefield, if you have the option to take more than one, take more than one, as opposed to another option, unless it's like a dragon. Or gigantic war machine type, monster-esque 12+ wounds. If you have something that's 5 or 6 wounds and you could take more than one, take 3. Just make that your unit choice as opposed to something else. And even if it's a comp situation based on wounds and model count or any combination therein, you're maximizing the effectiveness of that unit. 1 pump wagon is good, but 3 are better.
Nice. All right, awesome.
In the future, we'll definitely have to get you on sometime soon again and talk about the Dark Elves, because I think we can go into some nice detail on that rather than having to rush through it at the end here, I think.
I have a lot more written up about the Dark Elves too. I can't wait to see you guys with more battle reports too.
Yeah, there's a couple of things as well from the battle reports that I want to get your thoughts on. What do you think of the dilemma of actually putting that whole zombie and skeleton combined unit on the table that has so many models and gives your opponent an instant victory condition?
I thought it was great as for a narrative, for a scenario. The one downside is that it makes it difficult. It's a defensive unit. It's only a defensive unit. It's a great defensive unit, but it's only defense. You saw it in the battle report. Look how much he threw at that. He knocked out some of the skeletons. I don't know if he destroyed all the skeletons, but he couldn't put it back.
All but one, Mitch.
Oh my God, no.
I must have killed about 30 zombies, right?
He did, but they kept coming back as well, and then another unit was summoned and added on to the back as well.
I wouldn't have even touched the zombies. I would have let once they get to a certain point, it doesn't make a difference how many there are.
It's like
I would have left them alone and killed and shot at everything else. And then the zombies don't matter at the end. And frankly, the more he summons, the greater chances of you getting a victory, even just based on points.
And that just means I'm not summoning more crypt horrors at the same time.
I think you can get AOS road rage where you just get obsessed with the assassinate objective. You know what I mean? And you just think, look, I've got no chance of killing everything else, but I'll do the Hail Mary, and I can just, you get this bloodlust. I'm going to control it.
But you look at the undead. The undead have the luxury of being able to summon so much stuff, and stuff regenerates or restores itself. If you have an army that you're up against, and it has one necromancer, there's no redundancy. He has one necromancer or one summoning model. That should be your entire focus, because you take that away, and that army, the crazy potential of that army has been stunted. Now, look, if you're in a bigger battle, on Age of Sigmar, I love Age of Sigmar, but Age of Sigmar just doesn't work as well on these massive scales. It used to be that we could play 8th edition with 5,000, 6,000 points, and yeah, it's a little bit cumbersome, but they're just bigger units and more of them, and it really just took longer. But Age of Sigmar gets hard to keep track of when you get past a certain size. It works well in the small and medium size. When you get to really big, and I played a couple of gigantic games, and with a whole board was covered on either side of deployment, and it was just too much. You're keeping track of of tokens and enhancements and all the other stuff. It slows the game down a little bit. The game really does need tokens, and the guy at Litko is phenomenal. I encourage everybody, if you're playing Age of Sigmar, get tokens. Litko's awesome. I love Litko.
Yeah, he had the range, man. He had all of them. It was great.
Oh, he's great.
Really useful.
And I use him in every game. And on anything that guy puts out, if he sends me samples, I will use it. In any case, and buy them because they're really great value. So the game that you guys played is really at that level of, in my opinion, the sweet spot of a decent-sized game with enough models on the table to make it interesting, with a lot dimension of tactics and spectrum of abilities, but not too big that it is overly cumbersome.
Yeah, there was one moment, Mitch, where we were all stuck in battle in the middle, and it got really complicated. At that moment, I realised, wow, without objectives, this game is really messy. When it's just two armies hitting each other.
That's the textbook scrum in the middle that people said that every game. My first 2 games I played were exactly that. Everybody just coalesced in the middle.
Yeah.
Don't play Age of Sigmar like you played 8th edition.
No.
Don't play Age of Sigmar like you play other games. It's not. This is a game that screams, give me a story to tell, give me objectives, give me a scenario. It gels with that. If you have a narrative that drives you to do things, sometimes the units themselves do that, then you do that, and that's what made that with the fact that you put in that story, like within the Dark Elves.
Yeah, I love that game.
That made that battle report, and that's why people who just line up and play. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But if you're just going to line up and gather in the middle, that's not what Age of Sigmar is about. It's about a story.
Yeah.
Now, I did ask the audience a little while ago who they think the most tremendous orc unit is. And let's see what they said. Well, Stu Gibson says, in numbers, Black Orcs. So only as 20 or more, he says, because they have decent save and great damage output. I think he means tremendous damage output. Dialogical says the Mangler by quite a bit. He says he doesn't really like the model, but it can be downright nasty.
Yeah.
As Mr. M found out, even when it was really low on wounds, it was still dishing out tremendous damage to those zombies and skeletons.
You need to get a graphic that kind of just does tremendous.
We do, actually. We need to get your face with a big explosion around it.
My face with a big explosion? There's something wrong about that. You don't need my mug any more than you already see it right now.
Plastic Sturgeon says that's why scenery is massive in Age of Sigmar. Yeah, I think he's talking about breaking up the battle into manageable chunks rather than everything meeting in the middle. And if you build parts of the scenario on separate parts of the battlefield, so everything has reason to be in different places, that helps as well.
Let me say something about that. A complex battlefield is golden. I've been playing Frostgrave recently, and the more it's just like Mordheim. The more stuff you put on the battlefield, the more interesting it is. Age of Sigmar just is begging for that too. You don't want to put the stuff down that's like what you did with 8th edition and previous editions of Warhammer. Clutter your battlefield. Make it interesting. They don't all have to have rules. They don't all have to be. You can just make them standard. You know, you can either forget the rules for the if you want to have a very busy battlefield, or don't put as much things down that are like special. But only some things might be special. But the idea is have more stuff there. It will change how you play the game. Things that block line of sight, things with elevation, things that this is what this game is for. You want a busy and complex battlefield.
And they've given us those lovely portals that you can just teleport between, so why not have some completely impassable terrain down the middle of the table and kind of have two battlefields going on at the same time? And obviously you have to be in control of that little portal area if you're going to move from one battlefield to the other. So there's all kinds of things you can do to break it up. And a few people are commenting on Dark Elves. So I'm going to say anyone who's got any Dark Elf advice for Mr. Rem, if you wait till the show's over and leave it in the permanent comment section, then we can bring that up next time that we have the wonderful Mr. MC1 on the show.
Next time, I have to go on a school trip next week to Germany and France, so I won't be able to make next week's show. So if you want to be Remington and you want to... you want to sing at the start and make a fool of yourself, be my guest.
Yeah, you have to have a beautiful singing voice just like mine.
Or Rem, you might have to tape something.
So, I think we've pretty much wrapped up everything for this episode, haven't we, folks?
Just want to thank you, Mitch, for coming on our show, and I want to just say thank you for all the wonderful things you've done for the AOS community and the Warhammer community. Thank you so much.
Has he given you food for thought as well?
Absolutely. I'm going to be rewinding that half an hour of the show next time I get my orcs out for sure.
Go watch the orcs and goblins and the dark elf unlockings we did. You guys, both of you guys, I need to do more unlockings with you, especially when the dwarves come out again. And Remy, we got to do a follow-up. We never did a follow-up also on the...
yeah, I got kind of burnt out with my beastmen, and I just thought, I've got all these other armies, and I really want to try them out, man. And I especially like the Dark Elves, because they're a very multi-dimensional army.
Are you dead set on staying just within the Dark Elf sphere, or are you looking to break out and maybe grab some other elves?
Well, I've got a Wood Elf army as well.
You can mix and match. Nothing says you can't.
If you really, if you've got time on your hands, go through my my channel's videos. There's not that many of them, but I've got like an army presentation of my Wood Elves, and there's some real good old school 1980s Wood Elf miniatures there, and some new stuff. But yeah, I've got a pretty much full Wood Elf army.
Oh man, you got lots of options.
If you want to go with a particular theme as well, you could always get one of those high elf phoenixes and just paint it so it looks really evil, and just stick it with your dark elves, couldn't you?
Yeah, I mean, the ones we saw at Warhammer World were really awesome. Those phoenixes you can do great paint jobs on those models. They're great centerpieces.
Fiery Phoenix. They're really good in the OS. Okay, so.
Thanks for joining us, ladies and gentlemen. It's been an emotional roller coaster as always.
Thanks for having me on, guys.
To Mr. Mc1gamer and Mr. Rem for not being away on tour or anything this week. So he's dropped that bombshell on us, though, that he's not going to be here next week, so we'll have to find an adequate replacement and come up with some compelling show ideas for next time. So thanks again to the audience, and don't forget to like the video, and when the show is over, refresh the page, and in the permanent comments, leave some comments in there, let everyone know how wonderful the show was, just to inspire them to watch it, in case they just happen across it randomly in the world of the internets. And with that, we know for a fact that Mr. MC1 has retired from the world of music, gone out on top. So that hands it straight back to Mr. Rem
who hands it straight back to Andy. Now, I've got a little idea for you, Andy. To celebrate your double victory over the Steel in our last 2 battles, maybe we could I could compose some music behind a gloating song, maybe a song sung by your necromancer, your almighty necromancer and vampire lord that annihilated my army. How about that?
Well, you see,
singing voice.
The problem is playing music and someone else talking in the Hangouts. It doesn't pick up audio from both channels at the same time.
That's a good point. So what about just the singing then?
Well, one thing I've been pondering is we could do some Christmas-themed songs.
Yeah.
So I may try and painfully improvise one.
The audience demand it.
And as soon as... I probably won't get to the end of the song because I may just end the broadcast as soon as I run out of lyrics. So I've only got one line in my head right now. So I'm going to bring open the old screen share again. And at least people don't have to see me singing then. So...
Oh.
There we go, so people can look at that wonderful piece of Photoshop wizardry. I think I've got a bit of a cold coming on, so I might not be able to hit all those high notes that I normally hit with such perfection. So, here we go, folks. Andy and Rem, no one beats them. They're so cool. Organ guns rule. Gunning down beastmen from the top of a hill. I think Remington has had his fill of beards and gunpowder to the face. He thinks dwarves are a disgrace.